did.
I've
It's
been
nice
very
and
busy.
spruced up.
Yeah. I even have pop-ups, so if somebody subs or
Oh, really?
donates, which I don't expect to happen, or does bits, a little pop-up will come up on stream. I haven't customized those yet because I've been working on something else this week, but I got
What
all
have you been working
that
on?
set up. Well, I went to Purdue.
The college? But you
Yes.
graduated from there, Sam. You're not allowed back.
Well, I went back to get career counseling advice because I can't
Ooh.
get a job. So I went for that, and while I was there, I went to what's it called? The surplus store, right?
Yes.
And they had this really cool lamp.
Lamp.
Yeah.
Like a light lamp?
Yeah. Hold on, sorry, I gotta mute my phone. I forgot. I was like, what am I doing? But it had like a scissor arm. You know what I'm talking about?
A scissor arm. Okay, yeah. Where it like goes up and down?
Kind of. It's more just like an arm with springs on it, like a fancy microphone stand arm.
Okay.
Which is why I got it, because it was $5.
Ooh.
So I've been over the past 2 days. I don't know if you can hear the metal rattling.
I can.
But I've been making a mount for it, so I can mount it to stuff, because it didn't come with a mount. And there was a huge like steel power box on the bottom of it. So I've been using some scrap from around the house and trying to build this cool stand for it, which will be nice. And because I've been looking at, before I started doing this, I was looking at buying a new mic, so I don't sound like a stuffed up, far away person anymore.
Okay, so you've been working on your lamp. I like it.
Well, microphone stand.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, nice. You'll have to send me a picture of that afterwards.
All right. Put that there. It's here. All right, there we go. Not that it's gonna get views, but might as well. So what have you been? You said you just had a chill kind of day today.
Yeah, pretty chill. Like I said, made some salsa, some killer salsa.
Now, was it regular salsa or did you make salsa verde?
No, regular.
Oh, come on, salsa verde is clearly the superior.
Yeah, salsa verde is good, but
No,
I was in a regular salsa kind of mood. Been some cilantro, some yellow onion, some jalapenos.
Jalapenos are good, but you know it's better. Salsa verde with jalapenos.
Well, we only grew red tomatoes in our garden.
Oh, okay, so that changes it then.
Yeah, these are fresh.
Homegrown. Ooh, that sounds.
We gotta get them
good.
before the squirrels did. I was literally watching as I made the salsa. The squirrels enter our garden and steal tomatoes.
Dear Lord.
Upset me. Little suckers are acrobatic.
I didn't know squirrels like tomatoes.
We should electrify the fence or something.
Something to get them away from your tomatoes. So you just grow tomatoes, or do you grow anything else?
We got some tomatoes, some cucumber. We have a lot of cucumbers. We had broccoli, but it went bad, unfortunately.
Oh, that sucks.
And some sunflowers. Ooh, and jalapenos.
Ooh, homegrown jalapenos sound amazing.
Yeah, we put those in the salsa too. So
did you?
I think it's gonna be a good salsa.
I bet it will be. Do you have any left? Those sound like good. You make some stuffed peppers or.
I'm not sure how many I have left. Dad picked them. I'll have to ask. Maybe make some stuffed jalapenos. Ooh, some poppers.
Sounds good.
All right, well, I think we're ready to dive in.
Yeah, we've only been going for a couple minutes. Give it like 5. We're at 4 minutes right now. So. Just so we're not going live and immediately starting, because I was going through. I don't know if you saw. I went through the YouTube and put the album cover for all the other ones, and that actually
really?
We've gotten.
That bumps the views?
Yeah, like by 120% or something.
Oh my god. I guess it makes sense when you see, oh, that's an album I like. So yeah. Pixar music notes, you're like, what's that?
But I actually have no idea. What was I just talking about? Where am I? Dear Lord.
You still on toast, Sam?
No, what the heck? So I was talking about YouTube.
Yeah.
What?
We got the view bump.
I don't know what my point was.
We make a podcast together. It's called Audio Shop.
Do we? Dear Lord, what was I thinking? I have no idea what I was thinking of.
Well,
wow, that was.
I just see you're on the top of your game today.
Yeah. Oh, don't worry, I've got a beer here too. Actually, two, but could only go up from here.
Oh, that's good.
I honestly haven't. This is gonna bug me, so we might as well just get going here. What the heck was I talking about? I have no idea. Anyway, whenever we jump to a song, I'm gonna try and put that up on the screen too, since that was something some people had said. And before we get to the end, just talk about this real quick before we switch over. You're down for doing Matt's suggestion next week, the Coldplay album?
Yeah, Milo Explodo by Coldplay. Yeah. I really like that album, so
I've never heard it. So. And we should listen to the recommendations box since I decided to put it up there.
Yes, all right. I agree.
You ready?
Let's do it.
All right, here we go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Audio Shop Podcast, podcast number 10, I believe.
Number 10, double digits. Look at that.
Yes.
But it's not our 10th album; it's our 9th album since we did that two-parter.
Right, we did the two-parter with Carmen, and today, I don't know, Cooper, if you're watching the stream or not, but it's "Ready to Die" by I forgot the Notorious. Oh, there's the B.I.G.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
He's so notorious. He's tickling my nose.
Did I spell it right this time? I did not. I can't spell.
All right, Notorious is a tough one.
It is. Now, this was not created with such a long title in mind, so we're going to have to take this away whenever we get to the ratings, since they're kind of in the same spot. But
that's fine.
Yeah, we can probably get away with it. We'll be all right.
Yeah, we got to leave room for all those notes.
Yes. So,
give your eyes something to look at.
Ready to Die by Notorious B.I.G. This was an album Cooper suggested we do to try and get me into some hip-hop. And I gotta say, I resent you a tiny bit for this because it was an hour long and I was not ready for that.
Well, I told you on like Monday, so you had time.
Yeah.
But I think it's a good, if you're going to listen to a good hour-long album, it might as well be a decent one. Yeah. I think this is. I'm a bit of a hip-hop head myself. I like myself some rap.
A hop head, you might say.
Hip-hop head, yes. And Sam is less so. And I'm not sure how much hip-hop you've listened to, if any.
I listened to Will Smith. That's about it.
He technically counts. The Fresh Prince and Jazzy Jeff.
Yeah. That's about what all, I use every opportunity to listen to Wild Wild West. That's pretty much it.
Well, with that illustrious background, actually, Will Smith isn't too far away from Biggie in terms of that era.
Yeah.
Today we were reviewing "Ready to Die" by the Notorious B.I.G.
Yeah, and I will say, I as much as I disliked how long the album was because I wasn't mentally prepared for that, I did like the style quite a bit, as it was in that Will Smith more kind of relaxed. Although Will Smith's quite a bit more jazzy than Biggie. And
I'm not sure how many people are, how many hip hop heads would appreciate comparing Biggie Smalls to Will Smith.
Hey, listen, I'm not trying to make any friends here. I'm just trying to be entertaining.
That's fair.
So why don't you take away, since you wrote that whole history section there? Yeah,
basically, for those of you who don't know, I'm sure everyone's heard the name Notorious B.I.G. Biggie Smalls, but may not be familiar with his background. So his real name is actually Christopher George Latour Wallace. So Wallace was born in 1972, and he's known as Notorious B.I.G. You can also call him Biggie Smalls, or Biggie for short. And he's an American rapper. And he's actually widely considered one of the greatest rappers of the 90s era. This is despite the fact that Ready to Die is actually the only album that Biggie released during his lifetime. This is his only album that he released while he was alive. Because he was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, to a single mother. He was in jail before the age of 20. And at the age of his death, which was only 24, he was already married with 2 children. Yep. He was killed very young. He was actually died in a drive-by shooting.
I think I knew
less than a month before the release of his second album. He was actually touring for doing a press tour for his second album, Life After Death, when he was shot down. So actually, a lot of the stuff in this album is almost a bit prophetic when you think about how his life tragically ended.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And but his legacy lives on, considering that Ready to Die is considered one of the best hip hop albums of the '90s for its production, its storytelling, and Biggie's signature East Coast rap style. A big thing was East Coast versus West Coast, and Biggie was kind of leading the charge of what the East Coast style was, the New York, Brooklyn style. Yeah, and it's a bit of a chunky album. It's about an hour and 5 minutes long, unless you do a deluxe edition that's like an hour 15.
Yeah, and we just went for the normal without adding on the extra two tracks.
Yeah, we felt it was a little more succinct and a better finisher.
Yeah. Also, I let it roll over to the track after the last track we have here, and the style changed drastically and did not fit, in my opinion. So it's a good thing we're not going that far. Anyway, real quick before we start, Coop, you might want to check the connection on your mic. It's a little crispy.
Oh, sorry. Let me see if I can. How is that? Is that better?
A little bit louder, but we'll work through it. I think
how
it was,
about this? Is this a little bit better?
That's a lot quieter.
So you want to stay on this one then?
Maybe. Whatever you had to begin with was fine. I was just saying it sounded like it wasn't plugged all the way in.
Oh, let me try that then. It should be. Maybe I just need to sit closer.
No, I think it's good now. I think it just might have not been pushed in all the way. But you sound crisp and clean, unlike my voice.
And no caffeine.
Yeah.
I'm like a Sprite.
Sprite doesn't have caffeine?
I don't think so. That's what the commercials say.
Okay. I don't watch much TV. Anyway, before we get into it, actually, we got a comment on our last upload, our archive upload to YouTube, from Project Carthage. Now, I already responded to him online, so if you're listening to this, thank you so much. But he pointed out Freaking Out is actually available on Bandcamp under the album Ultra Rare Volume 1. His being Mystery Skulls. Bandcamp page is also where you can find the 2011 EP. Neither album is on Spotify for some reason. And he goes on to say, as for Nile Rodgers, he played some funky guitar on a couple of tracks. So thank you for that.
So this was on our Mystery Skulls review?
Mystery Skulls from 2 weeks ago, rather. Since we skipped for the holiday weekend. But yes, I'm going to go search those out after this because I would like to listen to more of his stuff, because I've been listening to Forever quite a bit since we did that.
Oh, well, it's always nice to see some guys' earlier stuff, see how they evolved.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, jumping into the first track, and I got it up on screen here. Track 1, Intro. Now,
Intro, and that's a track with big quotation marks.
Yeah. I did not realize that this was going to be a storytelling album going in. So I was not expected to be thrown straight into the deep end by you this early, but I guess here I was treading water.
Hey, if you're going to start somewhere, start at the best.
Yeah. And again, it's not much of a song, so we should probably brush over this pretty quick. Every time I thought it was going to be over, it wasn't. And I thought this album was going to cover like his whole life, but it turns out it was just like a year or something. Because it went through him being born all the way up to him getting out of jail just in the intro. And it was at this point I realized that I was hunkered down for an hour-long listen. So.
Yeah, so a little background. Biggie was born in 1972, and he went to jail for 9 months in 1990. And then after he got out after a year, he started making this album, Ready to Die, which he released in 1994.
What did you go to jail for? You know,
I think it was possession of drugs.
Okay.
He made bail after like a year, which he actually talks about in this album.
I was not very good at listening to lyrics in this one.
A lot of this album is about kind of his time on the streets and how he's went from like being on the like committing crimes to like doing rap. And this song kind of gives you really the footnotes of it, of him literally being born to his adolescence with kind of crime and then a little bit of time in prison. And when he gets out of prison, that's when the album starts.
Okay.
The things done changed. And I kind of like how, just a little side note, is as the his life goes along, it switches periods, like the music in the background changes to like hip-hop songs that are associated with that.
Mm-hmm.
Like when he's a little kid, like Rapper's Delight comes on with a hip hop, a hippie to the hip hop. That was like 1979.
I didn't know Biggie made that. He didn't. I'm just dumb.
No. That was just like during that time period. It was like representing it. No, I don't think Hippie would have. Biggie would have made a Rapper's Delight there.
Yeah,
A
no.
little too clean.
So jumping to track 2 then, since the intro is not much to write home about. Well, I mean, there's not much there anyway, in terms of
Musically.
Musically. Track number 2, Things Done Changed.
Things done changed. And I think this is as the first official track. I think it's a pretty strong opener. It basically hits you with everything that you're gonna need to know about Biggie in this album, which is like this. It's got this dark bass and aggressive percussion underneath, which is perfectly matched by Biggie's very deep voice and aggressive stance.
I don't know if I would say aggressive. I felt like it was firm but relaxed.
I guess maybe aggressive is but kind of like not aggressive. It has that edge to it.
Yeah.
But luckily his lyrics are always crystal clear.
Mm-hmm.
He's definitely not something. If you listen to his lyrics, you can understand him pretty clearly in most things.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know I say this a lot, but even while listening to this while working in the garage, it got a bit repetitive with the Things Done Changed. But I really enjoy the relaxed feel. Not so much relaxed words, but it's more laid back rap, hip hop than. When I think of it, I'm not even sure what I think of. Maybe some of the other stuff that Coop listens to.
Maybe like more trap is what you're thinking
maybe,
of.
I don't know.
Which is a more modern version of hip hop.
But I definitely feel like Gorillaz and Snoop Dogg influenced my taste there with his more slow, smooth style. Yeah,
which definitely it keeps the energy without like overdoing it. I would say, which is great because it puts the vocal the attention right on the vocals, which is real nice because he's got some good lyricism into most of his tracks. This one specifically talks about kind of how his hometown, which would be Brooklyn, has become more dangerous. Specifically, how like children have been incorporated into crimes. And also for each track, I kind of picked out a lyric that I think kind of represented the essence of the track.
Okay.
So for this one, he was talking about there's two of them. One where he mentions how parents used to take care of us, and now even they're scared of us.
Oh yeah, I did hear that one.
And another one's that's kind of talking about how you would even climb out of this. He says you're either slinging crack rock or you got a wicked jump shot. So basically, how like for a black man to get out of like the ghetto, they have to either be in crime or like be an athlete, or I guess in this case a rapper. So very limited avenues. So obviously it makes sense why someone would have to choose crime. It's not the only way.
Mm-hmm.
And also this Things Don't Change. We should note. I'm not sure if any kids are listening to this, but this is probably not an album for them.
Yeah, this was. I will say one of the later tracks in quotations. Not a fan. I'll talk about that a bit more when we get there. But every song is heavy on the cursing, and some are even sexually explicit. So if that is something that you're not a huge fan of, maybe give this one a pass.
Yeah. And Things Don't Change definitely set up the kind of violent nature of it, as well as one of my favorite things about Biggie is pretty much how upfront and frank about it he is. I mean, he wraps it all in like some very clever wordplay, but he in no short terms like doesn't say. He says there's some bad things going on in the ghettos,
and it was a lot.
It's very frank.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, he's just got a very frank nature about him.
Yeah, a lot of these were a lot deeper than well. Let's say some of them. Some of them were a lot deeper than I anticipated, especially toward the beginning and towards the end. The middle gets a little, look at my big dick, but
well, I think one of the things that we'll talk about as we go on is it's definitely an album of like it's got kind of a yin and yang thing to it, where for every high there's an equal low. Like so, for this one, it's him kind of lamenting crime in the streets and how his hometown has been taken over by inner city crime. But then immediately the next song is about him celebrating that crime, right? So it's kind of this yin yang.
Right. Okay, I see where you're coming from. So
yeah, but
sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just saying. So I think this was a very strong opener to give you a taste of what this album's going to be like.
Yeah. Jumping to track number 3, then. I gotta type them on the fly. I should have probably had something prepared for this. Give me the loot.
Yeah. Give me the loot. So, like I said before, this one's if the other one's kind of like lamenting it, this one's him celebrating it. Though I think it's a little tongue in cheek. And it's also got, well, I think so, because the album starts with him and a friend pretty much planning a robbery, talking about how they're going to, pop caps and kill people.
Mm-hmm.
But it ends with him getting shot by the police, right?
Right.
So it doesn't have a happy ending.
I don't know. All I know is, again, I'm a fan of the smooth flow. I really appreciate. I think in this one's, well, besides the "Gimme the Loot" was a little repetitive. They could have lost a minute off the song by taking that out of it.
The choruses aren't always like the centerpiece. It's more of his lyrics.
Right, which I wish they kind of. I feel like the super repetitive "Gimme the Loot," which is the chorus.
Give me the loot. Give me the loot.
Exactly, and they repeat that a few too many times, because the verses are amazing. They're great. They tell the story. They go back and forth. They have who's the guy that he's rapping with in this one?
I was trying to look it up. It was a little hard to find. It's not a well-known rapper. I think it was just one of his friends in Brooklyn, one of the local rappers
but
there.
They played off each other very well, and the verses were very well written. Only thing I don't like about this one is the "Gimme the Loot" being a bit repetitive and the hacking in my ear right at the end.
Oh yeah.
And as we go on,
that part.
I realize how much he loves just padding out like the last 30 seconds of the song with other crap. Like, yeah,
so
it gets real bad later on.
You're probably not familiar with this, but especially in the 90s, raps were kind of famous for their quote-unquote skits. So basically, they throw in like a little dialogue or like some sort of like almost like a play into their songs, which kind of make that album more cohesive story-wise, but they can also really like interrupt the flow of the album.
Yes.
It was
later on.
You wouldn't be the first person to complain about.
They did one perfectly later that I'll talk about that I absolutely love, but most of them are utter garbage.
Yeah, this one ends with like actual like gross ass coughing.
Sounds like he's about to hack a loogie into the microphone.
Yeah.
And then even without listening to much rap, I can tell it's 90s due to that record scratch.
Oh, it's got record scratches. It's got this fluttering bass. Oh, I love it. Plus, the chemistry between Biggie and his friend on this this track is very energetic. I like how they argue and bicker the entire time, but still keep their flow. It's realistic how they were able to keep that conversation within like the confines of a rap.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, and then moving on, we can go to track number 4, Machine Gun Funk.
Give me a sec to type it real quick. You can start if you want.
Yeah, so as the name kind of implies, this song's actually even more laid back than the other ones in terms of like the actual beat. It's got this really melodic guitar in the back, and the backbeat's got this funk to it. Of course, the percussion hits pretty hard, but all the songs do. And but Biggie manages to keep the energy with it. Where the song, I try to kind of find the theme for each song.
Mm-hmm.
So this one's pretty much about slinging weed. Funk's just a slang word for weed.
Okay.
So Machine Gun Funk is literally selling weed really fast.
Okay. I'm really glad you're here because I would not. If I were doing this alone, this podcast would be probably over by this point because I would not have very much to say.
Oh, that just happens because this is steeped in like early '90s slang, so yeah, it's kind of hard to parse through them sometimes. You can pretty much see that whenever like one of the verses I think to incorporate this is what's love got to do when I'm ripping all through your whole crew strapped like bamboo, but I don't sling guns. I got bags of funk and it's selling by the tons. So yeah, he's selling weed or selling drugs.
Okay, I gotta say I really did like when he started singing "What's Love Got to Do with It" and then transitioned it into his rap.
Straight in, which is a great.
Yeah, that was good.
It's great how he incorporates a little bit of singing into it, and even the chorus I like more than the first two songs, where it kind of keeps this brass and has this distorted vocal samples being recorded over it.
It repeats just a few too many times for my liking, but that's the style with the choruses in this album. So
yeah, definitely. Some of these songs really do err on the longer side. Like "Give Me the Loot" was well over 5 minutes long. And a lot of them are over 4 minutes.
I think there's 3 or 4 5-minute songs on this, which is nothing to laugh at. Granted, one of them was Give Me the Loot, which repeated.
It was a lot of Give Me the Loot.
Yeah, that one could have been maybe 3.5. But yeah, for the most part, I don't feel like many of these overstay their welcome too long, except some of the later ones.
Yeah, I think it had a stronger first half than a second half. But whenever he's kind of focusing on his life and his songs tell a story, I think that's where Biggie's strengths really shine.
Yeah.
When he's got this central concept. I mean, selling weed is kind of a weak central concept, but like planning a robbery or talking about how your neighborhood's changed, I think are like really core themes that you can work around.
Yeah. And the one thing I really noticed on this one, not related to the music at all, but at the end it does the fade away, which you really don't hear in songs nowadays.
Like the where it doesn't really end, it just kind of gets quieter.
Right. That was and that was a huge thing, because I think about this. I think every time I hear the Beatles or something, even on their albums they did that. But lately that's kind of gone away. Now the songs have a definitive end.
And I think that's definitely for the best.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a way to end a song if you don't know how to, but it's a little lazy, and it kind of takes. I guess it's a way to like bring down the energy, but when you're just going to another song.
Yeah, and it's crazy to think that was the standard for so long. Anyway, that was an aside, but I found it really interesting to think about.
Hey, I mean, it's easy. You just tone it down. You don't have to think of an ending to a song. Yeah, then I guess we can go on to the next song, if you're okay.
Yep, I'm good.
Song number 5, Warning. So this one, I think has a really good premise.
I love how it starts with him answering his pager.
Hey, 94.
Yeah.
Right? They didn't have cell phones back then. Or I guess if they did, it was the really big ones that no one bought. And I also like the way that in this one, basically, the premise is that Biggie's getting a phone call from his friend, Big Papa, which is just Biggie with a slight vocal distortion.
That was the vocal distortion was the phone. It's just him talking to himself.
Oh yeah, just him talking on a phone. But you can tell who's who. But basically, Pop is calling Biggie to warn him that someone's going to try to steal it, rob his house. So a pretty fun,
more than rob his house, kill him.
Yeah, kill him and rob his house.
Yeah.
Again, a little prophetic. A lot of this is talking about how Biggie feels like he's going to die, and he did like 3 years later. So, but I do like how in this one he kind of plays both characters, and you can clearly tell both of their personalities. Like Biggie, of course, being braggadocious and talking about how he's going to murder them, and Pop actually being like concerned and like talking about, hey, you better watch out. This is serious. Yeah,
and this is probably one of the best storytelling songs I've ever heard. Not only is it non-repetitive, and throughout it has, unique verses for each section. The characters are both played by the same person, and you can tell that they're separate characters. And that section at the end, this is the only the story element at the end that you were talking about before. This is the only one I really liked, where it was the two guys trying to sneak up to the house. I thought that was really well done. Maybe I'm just won over by the perfect nighttime sounds, but I thought it was
this ambient nighttime. Yeah, it ends with the in a skit with you hear the two guys try to break into his house, and then Biggie just shoots him 2 bullets.
Yeah.
So he follows through with the song, which is dark but also somewhat hilarious.
Yeah, they definitely made it more comedy.
A lot of Biggie stuff, even though it has these real dark elements, it manages to maintain kind of a tongue-in-cheek vibe. He definitely, even though it's a lot of death and sex, he definitely plays it off comically. Like one of my favorite verses on the album is there's going to be a lot of slow singing and flower bringing if my burglar alarm starts ringing, which is such a clever way of like saying I'm going to kill you, right? And plus, yeah, the backing track goes great with his super clear vocals. I think it was just a really good song in terms of storytelling and style.
Yeah, probably it's a good song. Anyway, jumping to track number 6, "Ready to Die."
"Ready to Die," the title track.
And I gotta say, for being the title track, I was kind of disappointed.
It was a bit underwhelming.
It was extra heavy on the record scratch, which I liked, but I didn't really have much to say about this one. Like, I can't say I've listened to enough hip-hop/rap to pick up on different things, but it just feels kind of, a rehashing of everything we've listened to up to this point. I didn't feel like there was anything else to add. There was nothing that stood out to me.
this one was pretty standard. There's a couple on these where I don't think he really has a central concept, and he still has good lyrics. It still has
Yeah.
good flows, but without that to kind of bind everything together, it's becomes a little forgettable. The one thing that does make this track stand out, I think, is the fact that and this gets he goes more into it later in the album. Is hip hop was really built around this braggadocious, larger than life persona, right? I'm invincible. I'll kill anyone who tries to hurt me. This is really one of the first times in the scene where even though he kind of keeps that like strength in a lot of songs, that kind of like shield. This is the first one where he's kind of talking about expressing suicidal thoughts, just expressing like depression, which was basically unheard of in the hip hop scene, right? Especially in the black community, right? Showing kind of that mental weakness was frowned upon. So Biggie kind of coming through and putting on the title track was a little bit groundbreaking.
Yeah, and especially I made a comment on this later on I think it was the last song, but I feel like he delved way more into mental health than I expected for an album from 1994 that was rap and hip hop.
Yeah, no one else was doing this back then.
Yeah.
Even nowadays, they don't do it too much.
Well, I feel like it's certainly, if you talk about mental health nowadays, people will be like, yeah, people are a little bit more educated, I'd like to think, I hope anyway. But, back then, that's, over 20 years ago, so.
Yeah, so, little, but of course he raps it inside of, he still has the braggadocious, so
yes,
it's there, but he doesn't get rid of all the window dressing. Like one of the lyrics is, "Your feet, my face, they meet with stomping. I'm ripping them seas from Tallahassee to Compton." So he'll keep the grandeur of it, but he'll also he lets a little bit through.
Yeah, but a little bit more to be desired there.
Yeah, it was a okay song, but nothing too standoutish.
Yeah. Jumping on to track 7, then.
One More Chance. This is actually the first lead single we've hit on this album so far.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, so there's 3 of them. One More Chance, Juicy, and Big Papa.
Now,
yeah,
when this one came on, I totally see you singing along to this in your shower.
Why is that?
Not that I watch you shower.
Oh, thank you.
When we hear you through the wall with your music on, I totally can picture you listening to this song. So,
well, thank you.
For those of you that haven't listened to this album, this one's a bit very much more bragging. I totally expect that this would not fly today. Not that it's inappropriate, just everyone would immediately assume you had a tiny dick if you were singing about yourself this much. Like it's...
Yeah, so the premise of the song is basically women begging Boogie to give them one more chance to have sex with him because he's so good. Which is, it starts with this kind of hilarious sketch of women calling him.
I really like that. They're really well written.
And again, I think this is somewhat, of course, it goes back into like, this is just the culture of 90s hip hop. I mean, they still do it nowadays, but not to this extent. This is like
this is ridiculous.
There's zero subtlety in this track, which I think is amazing. How you can make a full track just like with innuendos about sex. Not even innuendo. Some of it just straight up about
There's nothing innuendo-y about this.
Which is pretty funny. And it's got this nice chill beat with this plunky keyboard behind it, but of course Biggie still keeps the flows, and he has no lack of things to say about himself and his sexual prowess.
Yeah. This is why I could see you singing along with this one.
I mean, this is actually one of the few choruses on the track that I really, really like.
Of course it is.
The "Oh Biggie, give me one more chance." It's got these nice, like, kind of harmonic female vocals going through.
Hey, like I was saying, as soon as I heard this one, I'm like, I bet Cooper's heard this song before, and it's on one of his playlists.
Hey, it's one of the lead singles, one of the highest charting hip-hop songs of the 90s. So, everyone was singing it back in 95. I wasn't born yet, so I wasn't, but... Yeah. And then just a couple of the lyrics I want to touch on, just to prove the theme of this song.
Okay.
One of them is, "I don't chase him, I replace him. And if I'm caressing him, I'm undressing him." So you can see where his headspace is. And then, of course, my favorite line on the track. "I really, though, I got the cleanest, meanest penis. You never seen the stroke of genius." Which is just amazing. It's poetry.
Yeah, sure. It's It's a song. It took me by surprise a bit. You want to jump to track? We should call it track. It's not a song. Jump to track 8.
Yes. Hashtag exclamation point ampersands @ me. Or as it's known in as it was originally listed on his when he released the album, "Fuck Me."
Interlude.
Interlude, accurately titled. So, as you probably noticed with the last track, the first half is kind of this very crime-based kind of. The topics were like violence and like street living. This next section is very much sex-based, and this is this song is very much this. You want to take it away, Sam?
Yeah. So it's literally just him banging somebody on and putting it on the album. Again, like this would not fly today. Not because some people would find it hilarious, but you would be made fun of so hard for doing this. But if I wanted to listen to people banging, I would not be doing it right now on the podcast. So,
I would not want to listen to that either.
There's not much else to say. It's just a bad track. It shouldn't be on the album.
It's
Don't try.
I think it's made to be. I think it's made to be intentionally funny, especially with the girl. Why she's saying things like calling him an Oreo cookie eating, pickle juice drinking. That's her sexy talk. Is calling him fat.
All right.
Obviously, that's a bit of a joke.
Still, not what I want to be when I'm trying to listen to music. You know.
That's fair. I nicknamed this track. Yeah, sure. Just click shuffle, Grandma. All my stuff is good.
Oh God. All right. Let's jump to.
Yeah, this definitely. Once you hear it, you could skip it forever.
Yeah. I think I skipped it about halfway through. I was not about to listen to the whole thing. Like, is something actually going to happen? Nope. Okay, it's 1:30. Yep, we're done. All right, jump into a real song now. Track number 9, "The What," featuring Method Man. Actually,
the METHOD man.
Isn't
all
right.
He's of Wu-Tang Clan fame. In case you weren't familiar,
I know the Wu-Tang Clan exists. That's about it.
He's like one of the main members of it. So he's really the only big name guy on this album besides, Biggie.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't credit anyone else, I don't think. Even when there's other people singing or rapping with him. But I don't know if you heard it, but there was there's like a tape crackle effect on this one, and I really was not a fan of that. I mean, it probably sounds better if you're not super focusing on it, but it was really distracting. Even when I
didn't notice it, but I didn't care too much about it. I just kind of took it as part of like the aesthetic of it.
Yeah, I think just with my headphones, it got a bit annoying. If I was wearing something else, it probably would have been fine.
Ooh, I've actually, little aside, I've got new headphones on the way.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'll have to take a picture of them when I get them. They're real nice audio shop kind of headphone things for for music listening.
Did you get the logo on the side?
I did. Well, not our logo.
Oh.
But I can mark it with like marker. I think it says audio on it. I can just like
shop. Yeah.
Official branded.
Yeah, that'll be a while before that happens. But anyway, I think the other thing I only had bad things to say about this one for some reason. I mean, it was fine, but I feel like anything good I'm gonna say has already been said on the 7 other tracks we've come to this point.
Yeah, I mean, production-wise, like the backing isn't anything too interesting. It's actually pretty stripped down. It's basically just 2 pretty good rappers, or 2 great rappers, kind of just rapping with each other. I like how they kind of finish off each other's lyrics whenever they like switch who's rapping. But yeah, for the most part, I'm also on the same boat where this is not a bad song, but definitely just not too much interesting going on besides the lyricism again.
See, I'm not a huge fan of Method Man. He felt a tiny bit behind beat, where instead of being like on top of the beat, he was just a couple milliseconds too late on every beat. And his voice, I don't know what it was. I was just not a huge fan. I don't know. It's not like gravelly. I don't know how to describe what his voice sounds like.
Nah, I agree. I mean, definitely with Biggie, you appreciate just how clear his cadence is.
Mm-hmm.
because he's always like cutting straight through everything.
Right.
And but yeah, that's I didn't have too much to say about this track in particular.
You know.
Besides the again another good lyric. Assume the position. Stop, look, and listen. I spit on your grave, and then I grab my Charles Dickens. Ah, beautiful.
I think you like this album a bit too much at this point.
I appreciate clever lyrics. Some rap songs nowadays, especially in the more common era or the more modern era, there's less of a focus on lyricism and there's more of a focus on production, like backing instrumentals, which is great. It can lead to some really good hip hop songs, but then you miss out on some of these really clever wordplays.
I will say it doesn't sound like much thought was put into the backing, but that was fine because the focus was the raps.
The lyrics.
Yeah.
So the different strokes for all folks.
Yeah. Jump into track number 10 then.
Juicy. Again, this is one of his other lead singles. It's pretty much a classic rags to riches story. This is actually, I was looking this up. It's called this because one of the samples in the songs. So with hip hop, a lot of the things they do is that they do sampling, where they take like music or like vocals from other songs or sources and put them into their track.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the samples from this is actually from a Juicy Fruit commercial. Thus the title.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah, okay, I forget where. I think it's in the chorus, but it's like really subtle.
I thought it was pretty bold of him to dedicate an album 10 songs in.
Yeah, I did notice that too.
I was like, oh, it's a little late for that, don't you think?
I think of it more as like a single than like as a standalone thing, and then you
yeah, you did mention this one was a single.
And this one's like Rags to Riches. This is probably one of the most braggadocious songs on the album, talking about how he's built himself up to success and he's kept it real, keeping the same number, the same hood, and pretty much just him like saying that I've succeeded, look at me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I felt this one had a bit more of we were just talking about the backing didn't have a ton, but this one I feel like they kind of took it up a notch because there was that funky synth going on in the background, and I felt I'm not sure this was the first instance of them or of Biggie putting singing in the background, but there was that nice female vocal track going on that I feel like added a lot.
Oh yeah, the female singing on the chorus really enhanced the hook. Plus that bass. Mm-hmm. This album hasn't had too much like bass, like traditional guitar bass, but it's right here and it really cuts through. It's really good.
Yeah, this one was pretty good. I can see why it was a single.
Yeah, it's definitely it doesn't have maybe a deeper meaning like some of the songs do. Like I said, it's just about him becoming Biggie, becoming famous.
Mm-hmm.
But it also, in the context of the album, I think it's a little more potent, especially when it's paired right next to the next song, which is Everyday Struggle, which is basically the exact flip side of this. But we'll get to that in a second.
Well, might as well get to it right now.
Yeah, go for it.
All right, Everyday Struggle, track 11. This was where because you were talking about it earlier, but this was where I first was like, is he actually, like, was he suicidal at all? Because a lot of these are pretty dark mentally. Like, yeah, sure, he's talking about killing people, but, like, it's not often that you hear someone rapping about their mental health so heavily like this. And I think this one was another one of the long ones, too.
Yeah, and I think this one's specifically about mental health coming from, like, external, like, pressures.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I find interesting that not a lot of rappers talk about back then was basically the stress of it, right? This is like a stressful lifestyle. And it takes like a mental toll on you. So while Juicy is kind of a celebration of how much fame, how much happiness it's brought him, here it's almost like a manic episode, right? You have your highs, then you have your lows. Or he's like wondering if it's even all worth it. I mean, it's pretty much all said in the chorus, where he says, I don't want to live no more. Sometimes I hear death knocking at my front door. Another day, another struggle, right?
Yeah.
So it's a very, of course, Biggie still keeps kind of like his rap style. It's actually interesting where, in terms of like Juicy and Everyday Struggle, his vocal quality doesn't really change that much, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's not like, oh, this is sad Biggie and this is happy Biggie, right? It's like the same kind of general vibe, but it's kind of, when you push in a different direction, it takes on very different meaning.
Right, it's just he's changing what he's saying rather than how he's saying it.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think this definitely plays into that mental health, which you didn't see too much in any albums.
It does another 180 jumping into the next track.
This is very a whiplashy album in terms of tone.
Very much. Why don't you introduce this one, Cooper, while I type it in?
Yep, this is track number... Which number is this? Track number 12, Me and My Bitch. So if you haven't noticed, the theme of this album is sex and violence. Or sex and death, I would say. And this is actually the opening skit to this probably really exemplifies this the most, where it's a guy literally asking his lover, "Would you kill for me?" Right? So that's all kind of... I guess if I was like Sigmund Freud, I'd really analyze this. But like sex and death are very much wrapped together in Biggie's consciousness. They're almost like one and the same. And this is shown in this song, where it's about, even though it's called Me and My Bitch, and a lot of the lyricism in this is very disrespectful towards women in general. It's basically about how his lover is like his best friend, and the song ends with his lover getting shot and killed by like a rival gang member.
Mm-hmm.
So again, that kind of twisting of sex and death together. And this kind of, I guess this dichotomy is a good word, of how much like he kind of disparages women in this album, but at the same time, he's talking about how he wants to like die together and cry together and lie together, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like he's very emotionally invested in her, but at the same time, it's like kind of disrespecting her.
Yeah. I don't know if you heard the one of the opening lyrics, but he has a very interesting relationship between him and his wife's father there.
I was gonna write that down, where it's something like, "You're so good, I'd suck your daddy's dick." Yeah. Which is a great line.
Yeah, I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting.
Biggie's a funny guy when he wants to be.
Yeah. I liked how they had the fake couple talking in the background, so it gave some like background depth to it. I disliked how close they were to my ear, of course.
Yeah.
And then the end of this one was terrible. What was it? I'm pretty sure it was the end of this one where it was him getting blown.
No, I think that's a... Oh, yeah, it is.
Yeah. No, sorry, that's the next. That's track 14. My bad. But again,
yeah, that's respect.
This one was I don't remember what he threw in at the end, but this was like he's really likes just throwing things in to kind of pad the runtime, because there was nothing. It was just, I think, him talking to somebody for a good 30 seconds.
Oh yeah, just like a little interview type skit.
Oh yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
But it was like a 30-second snippet.
I mean, 30 seconds. Some of these songs are 5 minutes long, Cooper.
That's true.
You don't need to do that.
I'm not exactly a fan of a lot of the skits. Like, a lot of them you could have cut out. Or nowadays, a lot of times they do. They just kind of make it its own track, right? You have like this short 30-second track that you can skip. But, you know, they didn't do that back then. When you're selling like vinyl and like records and stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's harder to get away with like this 30-second track. So it's kind of the nature of the beast back then.
Makes sense.
No, I do agree with the respect one. That definitely was not the ending I needed. But we can go on to track number 13, Big Papa. And if there's any Biggie song that you've heard of, it's definitely this one. I'm sure you've even heard of this one, Sam.
I've heard the quote. I've never heard the song.
Oh, well. So this is the lead single of the album. It is Biggie's most famous song. And not too much in terms of like the actual like story content.
Mm-hmm.
There's not really a central concept, but this production is just so smooth and funky. It kind of makes up for it.
Yeah, we're getting to the point where I'm starting to write less and less and less in my notes, just because I was getting burnt out.
You got to face these albums out, man.
I know, but I really need to stop writing all this on the last day. But the one thing I picked up on this, I wrote two things. One, I've heard the quote and not the song. He talks about eating Smucker's jelly with his steak. Who the heck does that?
Biggie Smalls. He was a big guy.
I know he was a big guy, but who eats jelly with steak? Like, are you eating hockey puck steak or something?
Yeah, well, this is just another one of the braggadocious songs.
Yeah.
But just with more classic Biggie lyrics. Like I said, this is probably the one song where the instrumentation actually like really sticks out.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas it's really, like I said, funky bass, this whistling synth. I don't know how to describe it, but you know the
Kind of like a theremin almost.
yeah, like a theremin going on in the background. This really laid back percussion leads to a great backing track. That Biggie just flows on, and that's basically you can see why it's such a good single of just showcasing best lyrics paired with some of his best instrumentation, and of course the I love it when you call me Big Papa is basically like one of the most famous lyrics in any rap song. So yeah, it kind of speaks for itself, and I really like it. I don't know how much I can go into it, just saying it's pretty much plays to all of Biggie's strengths, besides maybe his storytelling ability.
Yeah, I mean, it was good. Again, good song, but I was just getting a little fatigued by this point. Not because the songs are bad, but it's just listening to a new style that I've not listened to a bunch, and the album's over an hour. It gets a bit, all gets a bit samey when it's the same kind of artist, and just getting used to the style.
You gotta chop these albums up.
Yeah,
you can pace it out better in the future.
Yeah.
But then moving on,
next
track 14, Respect.
This is the culprit.
Yeah, so this one's actually I really it's basically about the takeaway I got from this is kind of respecting yourself enough to chase what you want. So basically, he's talking about how he realized that he shouldn't be chasing this life of crime as much as he should be chasing his dream of being a rapper, right? Mm-hmm. Putting his goal, his energy and skills to a better use than going to jail and losing all his. I think there's a lyric about like him losing all his money that he's made from drug dealing just to bail himself out, so he's like back to zero.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing that really sticks out from this track is it's got this really dirty guitar line, like dirty in a good way. It's like really plucky and like it's got this grimy feel to it, and it's paired with this like Jamaican female vocals, which bring out a lot more personality. Up to here, all the female vocals have pretty much been like super smooth and talking about how much they want to bang Biggie.
Also very
pretty
like,
much
soulful.
Exclusively. Yeah. Very soulful. So this one's a nice change of pace, and it doesn't talk about wanting to bang Biggie. So it's nice that a female did something else on this album besides that.
The only thing, the only comparison I could think of whenever the song started was that really bad song that's associated with that rat. I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be Biggie Smalls. You know what I'm talking about? He's like a rat, and he's got the cheese, and he sings Mr. Bombastic.
Oh, the Big Cheese.
Yeah, it's from some. I don't know what movie it's from.
Or from Back at the Barnyard.
Is that what it's from?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure he's modeled specifically on Biggie.
Probably. I don't. That for some reason that just popped in my mind on this song.
Here, make sure to pull up an image of the Big Cheese.
Oh god, that's gonna be hard to do.
From Back at the Barnyard.
You keep talking about this song, and I'll do that.
Yeah. So, and like I said, so this song's got some personality. I don't really care. There's like a 30-second snippet at the end where like the Jamaican vocals are like singing over the guitar, and they do not pair up at all. I think it would have been good to have like a beat switch up, or like maybe just the vocals. Leaving them like together kind of made them clash. And then unfortunately, it lends into the worst skit on this album, which is literally a woman giving a man a blowjob, and it does not lack in sound effects.
Yeah, that was absolutely god awful. Again, if I wanted to listen to that, I would not be doing it on the podcast.
Yeah, it's definitely not the best ending. I mean,
there we go. I got it.
It goes back into that sex theme, but I think it could have been done better in a. I guess maybe it's intentionally off-putting, but that doesn't make it good.
Yeah.
So it definitely kind of. I had to turn mine down whenever I was.
I just skipped it. There's no point listening to it. But I finally.
I listened through it twice. It didn't get better the second time. I'll tell you that.
I finally found the picture of Biggie Cheese. He is from Barnyard, not Back at the Barnyard. That was the TV show.
Can we just keep that up for the remainder of the podcast?
Sure. Let me get it to cover the rest of the music note. There we go.
Yeah, so that's Biggie Smalls, everybody. Real life photo.
This is probably extremely disrespectful, but you heard it. Cooper requested it, so we're gonna do it.
No, I'm sure. Honestly, you probably would have loved it.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, and then I guess unless you want to talk about the blowjob anymore.
No, let's jump to track 15.
We can jump to track 15. Friend of mine. So, like I said, yin and yang. If me and my bitch was talking about how much he loved his woman, how to be faithful, and how they should die together, this one's about how all women are cheating whores and that you should never love them. This is literally the anti.
This is on your shower track too, isn't
it?
This is also on your shower track, isn't it?
I don't know. This one's almost it's intentionally disrespectful, but it's almost like more so. It's definitely like goes against maybe some modern sensibilities, where it's a very severe distrust of women, which again goes back to Biggie on this album has these highs about how much he loves his. At this point, he's married. How much he loves his woman, how much he trusts her. And this one, where he's like, if as soon as you love someone, they're going to try to hurt you. Which is actually, if you look beneath the lyrics, it's kind of a vulnerability to it that you don't really see in a lot of rap tracks. So it's a little introspective there. It's kind of wrapped in this misogynistic kind of window dressing, though. Like one of the lyrics there is like, the only time I call her is to hang is when me and D are blended up scheming for a gangbang, right? So not exactly the most romantic, oh, this is our song kind of song.
Yeah, I don't really have anything to add to that because this is right before I went to dinner, so I didn't really write anything down for this one.
Oh, don't get too passionate, Sam.
I wrote more for the rest of it. It was just at this point I was like, I'm hungry.
That's
tired of listening.
Backing wise, this has a really simple boom bap beat and like this kind of quick synth arpeggio, so it's pretty standard.
It sounded really. I had trouble thinking of anything to say because it was just so samey to me, and I realize it's not. I'm just not used to listening to it. But
yeah,
I can't. With my limited experience with it, I don't have much to toss in the ring, so to say.
Yeah, that's fair. This one's pretty standard. I think thematically it's good for the album. Just the tracking isn't that mixed up.
Yeah.
And then we can go on to what's this next track? Number 16, Unbelievable. This track, if I'm going to be honest, is probably this is kind of where it peters out in terms of like doing something new. This song's basically, it doesn't have a very good backing. It kind of has this like oddly dark pitched percussion sample.
Mm-hmm.
And the vocals are like dissonant on purpose. It has this like weird spooky vibe that really doesn't go with Biggie's style at all. It's kind of sticks out from the rest of his tracks, even the more generic ones. And even the lyrics on this one, I think, are pretty subpar compared to his regular stuff.
Yeah.
It's another braggadocious song. It's just about Biggie talking about how unbelievable it is that he exists, right? So very not exactly humble.
Yeah.
I don't have much to say about this song beyond. Honestly, I think he could have. If there's any song he's going to cut, it'd be this one.
Yeah.
Doesn't add anything new to the story, and.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have a ton to add either, just because, like I said before, I have zero experience with hip hop except for Will Smith. So at this point, it was like I couldn't really distinguish difference between this song and other songs. I was like, it all just kind of blends together for me. I kind of wish I maybe made a bit more effort in listening to the actual lyrics. Maybe that would have given me some more there, but.
If you're going to this album, you definitely want to have an ear out for the lyrics because that's kind of where the bread and butter is.
Yeah, and it's hard to switch between sometimes because like, what is it the last couple albums we were really focusing on only the music and the lyrics were kind of not really the important part, and
this is basically the flip side.
Yeah, I'm not used to listening to rap hip hop. I guess that's what it is.
Yeah, well, when we do the next hip hop album. We'll know what to look for.
I'll be ready.
And so not much on that. So I think we should just skip to the final song, track number 17, Suicidal Thoughts. Which I Googled the lyrics for each of these songs. So during my following. So I listened through it just by itself, and then in subsequent listens, I could follow through with the lyrics to kind of get the message a little bit better.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah, don't type suicidal thoughts into Google. Also gets very concerned about you.
Make sure you put Biggie Smalls first.
Type Biggie Smalls first. But yeah, so again, highs and lows. You go from basically this is the biggest swing on the album to Unbelievable, which is basically Biggie literally thinking himself as like this rap god, to Suicidal Thoughts, which ends with Biggie killing himself.
Mm-hmm.
That's the end of the album. Is him shooting himself in the head. Actually, it's done in this really interesting way, where it starts with Biggie pretty much calling his friend late at night, and his lyrics in the song are him talking to his friend and contemplating suicide. And one of the things I really like about this song is as his lyrics kind of get darker and darker, it kind of builds to him killing himself. You can hear like very faintly in the background his friend being like, "Yo, Biggie, stay on the phone. I'm coming in the car. Get your girl on your phone. Dude, don't do this." It's like this really dark atmosphere to it.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say it's faint at all. It's pretty dang loud.
Okay.
And there's even a point where because he's kind of rapping, ignoring what the guy in the background is saying. But there's one point where he pauses and the other guy jumps in for just like a verse or just a sentence. And then
yes,
Biggie jumps back in. Very interesting style-wise, extremely dark.
Yeah. So like I said, it ends with him literally shooting himself over the phone as his friend listens. So not exactly, the happiest way to do this.
Yeah.
And definitely, if you're listening to this on Spotify, after this is 2 songs, 2 bonus tracks, Who Shot Ya and just playing. I suggest basically ending the album here. Because I think thematically it's, ready to die. This is where the album ends.
Yeah. So jumping onto the next song is like some really happy beat and does not play off this very well.
It's basically a B-side that they slapped onto, after Biggie had already passed.
Yeah.
So this is like the original way he intended the album to end. And it's still, it still contains, even as dark as it still gets some of that kind of Biggie comedy, kind of his charm in it. Or like the opening verses, "It don't make sense going to heaven with the goody goodies, dressed in white. I like black Timbs and black hoodies." So even there is, got a little bit of this real dark comedy.
You're missing the part where I think he says he doesn't think God would let him get his dick wet or something like that.
So it's but even with that, it's basically talking about how he's not sure. It ends with him basically contemplating, saying he doesn't think his mom loves him as much anymore, and that he's done too many things wrong to be deserved to be loved. And then he kills himself. Which again, this is something like this is really unheard of in like such a big album in the rap game of showing this much vulnerability. And I think it really is to the album's what's the opposite of detriment? Like to its like
I have no idea what the opposite is.
To its gain. To make it better. To add these very personal lyrics to it. Anything you have to add on this last track?
No. It's opposite of detriment, by the way. It's just benefit.
Yeah. I guess so.
Yeah, I mean, it was good verses, diverse, not repeating, but a heck of a lot deeper than I was expecting. Coming into this, I was not expecting to be listening to a mental health rap album. So it was bit heavy, but it's still good. So it ended way differently than I thought it was going to, especially after Respect and the interludes track number 8.
Right. It's kind of it really is has some emotional whiplash.
Yeah.
But I think plays it to its benefit.
Yeah.
Just to show how a man can go from like highs to lows in his life and so quickly.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's all 17 tracks. So like we said, it's a chunky album, but it's well worth a listen.
Yeah.
And do you want to start with your favorite and least favorite, Sam?
Sure. I'm gonna have to say my favorite is probably track number 5, Warning. Like it not only is it's just funny because it starts off with his pager ringing, which even today, if you started a song with your phone ringing, it'd be a little bit like, it's kind of Nobody really
Here's a
does
fun
that.
alarm on, yeah.
Yeah. But it goes into it's one of the better storytelling songs I've ever heard, and this is the only one where the skit really was really good. I really like at the end because it was it was dark, but it was mixed with some good comedy.
And it kind of wrapped up the story of the song.
Right? Yeah. It was just well put together. No repetition.
It was
Diverse
quick.
verses. It was not a super long song. Yeah. It was just nicely little wrapped bow on top of it. Least favorite, absolutely. We're not. I mean, I would say track number 8, but that's not even a song.
Well, yeah, I don't think we can count we can count that one.
Yeah.
That's yeah.
I'm gonna say probably controversial, but the what?
Okay. With Method Man.
Yeah, just I wasn't feeling it. I mean, there's nothing. I don't really have much to complain about. It just didn't. I don't know what was going on, but I wasn't feeling it. And it's not like the lyrics weren't good. It's not like it didn't flow. It just didn't resonate with me.
Okay, that's fair. And then for me, I'd have to say my favorites. I also really liked Warning. The one I'll probably have to put above it is Suicidal Thoughts, just because I think it's such a strong album closer.
Mm-hmm.
We've listened to a few albums on our podcast so far, and for pretty much, I think most of them open very strongly.
Mm-hmm.
Opening an album strong really isn't that difficult. You just, or I guess I've never made an album, but putting like a strong, high energy song at the beginning isn't as hard as really making a solid closer.
Yeah.
Making a song that's like, this should be the last one. This really ends the album.
Or making a good last song and then actually putting it at the end rather than in the middle of the
then
album.
having like 2 other songs that are mediocre right after it. The clear the bar songs, right? Suicidal Thoughts. This is the end of the album in no uncertain terms. It's got great flow, a great concept. I like the dark instrumentation that's kind of stripped back on it. And I think it really shows how Biggie was kind of setting himself apart from other rappers at the time. And then, of course, if you want a lighter song, if you're not feeling like listening to a man talk about killing himself, also listen to Big Papa, because that's a great single.
Mm-hmm. Put some jelly on that steak.
Yeah, put some jelly on that steak. Some Welch's grape. And then probably my
Welch's, not Smuckers.
My least favorite song is probably Respect.
Yeah.
Just because that ending skit just really ruined anything. And I think the Jamaican vocals, while good, just didn't pair that well with the actual like guitar riffs being played.
Nor Biggie's lyrics.
Yeah, or that, or Unbelievable is also, I think, a weaker one.
Yeah.
It just didn't have anything to stand out, and his lyrics weren't as inspired on that one.
Yeah. Well, let's jump into the rating then. I'll do the classic introduction. We have our 1 through 5 scale here on Audio Shop, and since we both know so much about cars, we decided to make it about cars.
I actually jump-started a car today, so you're welcome.
Congratulations. You sure you didn't just stand back and watch while somebody else did it?
I mean, my dad did most of it, but I hit the gas.
Okay, so that goes to show you how much we know. But our 5 out of 5 rating is showroom, top of the line. The Tesla dealership where your friends are hopping in the car and touching everything, and you have to apologize to the guy running it because they're acting like toddlers. And then you got Scrapyard, which is 1 out of 5, bottom of the barrel. You go to the Honda dealership and they try to sell you a used tire and market it as a car. So that's a big skip. Yeah, there's a big skip, but we're very liberal with it. Our ratings might vary on how we're feeling each day, and also we kind of incorporate decimal points by saying either high or low.
Yeah.
So you want to take it away, Coop?
Yeah, I'll start. So basically, like I said, this is considered one of the best hip-hop albums of the 90s. Times change, tastes change, but I think even for something that's as far back, I could say as far back as 1994, I'd like to give this album a high like new. I think it runs a bit on the long side. There's definitely some songs that he could have cut that didn't really add to the album. Thematically or story-wise, or didn't really have an interesting lyrics or vocals. But as a complete package, telling this kind of life story from it literally starts with his birth and ends with his death. I think it's well earned its notoriety as a great rap album. Like I said, maybe not quite showroom. Maybe it's got some flaws to it, especially in instrumentation. But in terms of like lyricism and style, I think you can tell why Big E's considered one of the greats, despite only having one album released during his lifetime.
Yeah. And I'm close to that. I'm going to give it a fixer-upper. I enjoyed it. Like I said, I've not ever really listened to any hip-hop or rap before, so it was a new experience. I'm finding, I think, I like thinking about it more than I actually liked listening to it, if that makes sense.
A little more cerebral.
Right. Which is weird for... I've never connected rap and cerebral in my head before, but when you're saying so many words, I guess you have to make it make sense, or else people are going to complain. But I enjoyed it for an intro. It was quite long, which is to its detriment, but I think it was a very good introduction album. For me, anyway. I think it's worth a listen. Definitely skip track 8 and maybe skip over the skits at the end. Some of them are good, some of them are absolutely god-awful. But for the most part, it was a good listen. I liked it.
Yeah, if you're someone who's really into hip-hop and you somehow haven't listened to it like I have, or like I hadn't, definitely give it a look. If you're not as big into hip-hop, maybe consider it.
Yeah.
It's maybe a little bit long, but definitely worth the listen.
Yeah.
And thank you for listening to it with me, Sam.
Yeah,
for trying out a new genre.
Thanks for suggesting it. And we got a couple quick things before we duck out here.
Ah, yes.
We actually have decided a week ahead of time what we're going to listen to in Audio Shop first.
We planned things?
We haven't planned things. Matt, I should say Protoswarm, sorry. A streamer friend of ours has suggested to do Milo Xlodo. Is that how you say it? Xylodo?
Milo Xlodo, yes.
Xlodo, okay. By Coldplay. So that's what we're going to listen to next week.
So for something a very different vibe than Notorious B.I.G.
Yeah. And if you want to listen to us on the go, I started a SoundCloud. We only have 3 of the podcasts up there because I did not realize that SoundCloud was not a magical space where you can store all your audio, and you can only fit 3 hours if you don't pay. So there's 3 up there, but I consider them some of our better 3. Well, 2 of them are good. One of them's the first one, which was kind of weak. And then...
Hey, you learn as you go along.
Exactly. Cooper's trying to get better at Twitter. You can follow us at
Audio Shop 14.
Yes. And
which is also, if you're listening to Twitch, it's right there in the panels.
Yeah, I finally got the panels
so lovingly put them together.
And we're on SoundCloud. You can just search Audio Shop, and it'll be a little music note car. And if you feel so inclined, you can drop us a donation. Maybe we'll use it to get SoundCloud, but more likely we'll just use it to buy those giant-ass burritos that you can see in the little picture down there. So
if you're in the Chicagoland area, go to TBK.
Yes.
Taco Burrito King.
Not sponsored, but if they want to sponsor us,
if they want to sponsor, I would love that.
I would love that. Best burritos. Anyway, thank you all for listening, and we will see you next time.
Yep.
See you, shoppies.
Every time.
Every time.